You ever had somebody push you so damn far you just snap? That's exactly what happened when the homeowners association, well, really just one woman, Karen, decided my farm equipment was a community eyesore. 3 letters taped to my door. 3 fines shoved in my mailbox, and then the cherry on top, a notice saying my tractor had to be gone within 30 days. My tractor, the machine I used not just to work, but to keep my family's small farm alive. I remember standing there in the late summer heat, the cicadas screaming in the trees, gripping that homeowners association letter so hard the paper ripped in my fist. Eyesore, I muttered out loud, even though no one was there. Lady, that tractor's worth more than your damn SUV. My chest was tight, my jaw locked. The sound of her little yappy dog barking from across the cul-de-sac was like nails in my skull. The thing is, Karen wasn't just an homeowners association president. She was the type who lived for control. Clipboard always in hand. Lipstick too bright for a Tuesday afternoon. Sunglasses that made her look like she was perpetually judging you. And maybe she was. Her voice carried like a megaphone when she stood on her porch, hollering across the neighborhood about trash bins left out 30 seconds too long. God, the nerve of that woman. I tried to reason with her once. Big mistake. Karen, I said, this isn't just a tractor. I need it for the land. Without it. She cut me off, smirking. Rules are rules. This isn't farmland. This is a community. And we value appearances here. Appearances. As if her moldy shutters and faded garden gnomes screamed luxury. That night. Couldn't sleep. The crickets were loud. The house was too hot and my wife kept rolling over, sighing in her sleep. I just sat at the kitchen table, staring at that crumpled notice, sipping stale coffee at 2 a.m. My blood boiled, then cooled, then boiled again. Every swing of emotion left me breathless, frustrated, like I was losing ground in a fight I never even agreed to. And then it hit me. If they wanted the tractor gone so bad, fine. I build a new one, a better one, a machine so efficient, so quiet, so goddamn revolutionary that not even Karen's homeowners association bylaws could touch it. Crazy, maybe, but I wasn't just some farmer who tinkered in his garage. I'd studied engineering before life dragged me back to the family land. Welding, mechanics, hydraulics. Hell, I loved machines. And if Karen wanted a fight, she was about to get one she couldn't even understand. So I started. Nights turned into weeks. The garage lit up with sparks. The smell of burnt metal and oil seeping into my clothes. I worked with headphones in. Old Springsteen tracks blasting. Sweat dripping into my eyes. My wife thought I'd lost it. Maybe I had. But there was something electric about it. Something alive. Every bolt I tightened. Every piece I welded. Felt like sticking a middle finger right in Karen's face. But oh, Karen noticed. Of course she noticed. One morning, just as the sun broke over the pines, she marched across my driveway, heels clicking like gunshots. She peeked inside the open garage door, gasped and then, of course, started shouting. You're building more equipment. This is a violation. This is illegal. I wiped my forehead, smirked. Illegal. Lady, the scrap metal right now. She jabbed her finger toward me, her voice trembling with fury. I will fine you into the ground. I'll call the county, the state. You will not deface this neighborhood with your toys. That word, toys, cut deeper than I expected. I felt the heat rise in my chest. I stepped closer, lowered my voice. This isn't a toy, Karen. This is survival. She scoffed, turned on her heel and stormed away, her dog barking behind her like backup singers. Weeks later, the machine was finished. My machine. Sleek, compact, whisper quiet, powered by a custom hybrid system I cobbled together from salvaged batteries and a modified diesel engine. Could plow, lift, even harvest on a small scale, all without the thunderous noise of a traditional tractor. And here's the kicker. It looked nothing like farm equipment. To the untrained eye, it was just a futuristic utility vehicle. I took it for its first test run at dawn. The dew still heavy on the grass. Birds just waking. The hum of the engine was soft, almost soothing. A low purr compared to the roar of my old machine. I drove it down the lot, heart pounding, adrenaline sharp. And who was standing at the end of the cul-de-sac? Arms crossed, robe fluttering in the breeze. Karen. Unbelievable. She hissed. You just can't follow rules. Can you? I parked the machine right in front of her. Shut it off and stepped down. This doesn't break your rules. It's not a tractor. It's innovation. Show me the bylaw that bans progress. Her mouth opened, then closed. For the first time, she didn't have a snappy comeback. Her silence was sweeter than honey. But the real twist. Word got out. First, a neighbor asked if I could help till their garden quietly, since their newborn hated loud noises. Then another asked about hauling soil. Within weeks, I was booked solid. Residents paying me under the table to use my tractor that wasn't a tractor. The machine spread like wildfire beyond our neighborhood. Videos on social media. Farmers, gardeners, even contractors started reaching out. Suddenly, I was in meetings with investors, shaking hands with people in suits, hearing phrases like scalable technology and patent rights. Meanwhile, Karen was fuming. She tried everything. Letters, complaints, even calling in a county inspector. But every time, she hit the same wall. No laws broken. No rules violated. My machine wasn't classified as farm equipment. It was something entirely new. One evening, as I was coming home from a long day of demoing the machine to potential buyers, I saw her sitting alone on her porch. No clipboard. No dog. Just Karen, shoulders slumped, staring at the asphalt like it had betrayed her. She looked up at me. "I's tired. You ruined everything," she whispered. I almost laughed, but the sound caught in my throat. "No, Karen. I just stopped letting you ruin me." Her face twisted, somewhere between rage and heartbreak. And for the first time, I felt pity. But karma wasn't done. 6 months later, our homeowners association collapsed. Turns out Karen had been skimming funds, funneling dues into beautification projects that never existed. When the audits came back, she was toast. Neighbors who once cowered under her glare now cursed her name in the grocery store aisle. The board kicked her out. The fines were rescinded and her reputation shattered. And me, that eyesore tractor she tried to kill, had turned into a multimillion-dollar business. Investors called it the Tesla of agriculture. My wife and I moved onto a bigger farm, built a better house, and I never heard that yappy little dog again. Sometimes, late at night, I still hear Karen's words echo in my head. Rules are rules. And I laugh, long and hard, because in the end, I didn't just beat her at her own game. I rewrote the rules completely. And damn, felt good. They barged into my backyard like they owned the place, 2 women in matching beige pantsuits, one flashing a laminated badge, and the other holding up a clipboard like it was a court order. "We're with the HOA Enforcement Committee," the taller one barked. "Only problem? Our property isn't even in the HOA." I stood there gripping my garden shears, jaw slack. What in the ever-loving hell is this now? My Saturday morning had just gone from peaceful to what the actual, as I stared at the so-called Karen sisters, strutting across my grass like they'd discovered the holy grail buried beneath my compost pile. "Ma'am," the tall one repeated with that condescending, nasal drawl only a certain breed of suburban tyrant can master. "You are in clear violation of community aesthetic guidelines. This fencing color," she tapped the cedar slats behind her with a perfectly manicured finger, "is not regulation." I blinked. Regulation? Lady, I don't even live under your regulation. Oh, but you do, chimed in the shorter one who, I kid you not, had a fanny pack shaped like a tiny gavel. This entire street is grandfathered into the new HOA charter. Page 72, Clause 5b. She looked at me like I should have it memorized, like I was the one trespassing on their land. I opened my mouth, then shut it again. A breath caught in my chest. My hands started shaking, but not from fear, from fury. How many times had they pulled this act on someone who didn't fight back? What they didn't know, though what they couldn't have known, was that my son, Logan, a recently retired Marine with a sharp eye and zero tolerance for BS, had just come home from his morning jog, and he was already recording. From the corner of the yard, under the willow tree, I spotted the faint red light of his GoPro blinking behind the leaves. Silent, watching. Karen won. Her name turned out to be Cheryl. Stepped closer. We're authorized to issue a fine up to $1,000 for noncompliance. We'll be back with paperwork. She snapped a photo of my patio furniture. Click. That umbrella, too. Stripes are not allowed. My voice dropped low. If you take one more step on my property. Karen, too, later revealed to be Cheryl's sister Denise, cut me off with a dramatic huff. This aggression will be reported. She raised her phone like she was summoning a lightning bolt. You will comply. A leaf rustled behind me, and then Logan stepped out. 6'3", combat boots, calm expression, arms folded. That same cold discipline I'd watched him use in war zones was now directed at the HOA's dollar store FBI. Can I help you ladies? He asked, voice flat but firm. They froze. Denise's phone wobbled in her hand. Cheryl blinked up at him. We're here on official business. You mean illegal trespass? Logan replied, pulling out his wallet and flipping open his ID. Because this is what a federal credential looks like. I'm former military police. You just entered a private yard, presented a fake badge, and made a verbal threat. That's a federal offense. Their faces turned the color of canned tuna. You have 3 seconds to get off my mother's property, he said, or I'll have to detain you until the real police arrive. And just FYI, your entire charade was caught on a 4K body cam. Silence. Denise stammered. We didn't meant his is just a warning visit. 1. But sir, if we could just explain. 2. Okay. Cheryl squealed, turning on her heel so fast she nearly tripped over the garden hose. This is harassment. You'll be hearing from our 3. I swear, I've never seen 2 middle-aged women sprint like that in kitten heels. They bolted so fast they dropped their fake clipboard, which Logan calmly picked up and examined. Typed in Comic Sans, with clip art. A laugh burst from his chest. I finally exhaled. Are you freaking kidding me? Looks like they've done this before, Logan muttered, flipping through the violations. There's a whole list of homes, names, photos, ones from across town, different zip code. And that's when it hit me. They weren't just HOA nuts. They were running a scam. I dialed 911. The local police showed up 20 minutes later. A pair of cruisers and an officer who immediately recognized Cheryl and Denise from previous incidents. Apparently, they'd been issuing fake fines, demanding cash payments, and even trying to enter garages under the pretense of aesthetic inspections. They'd already gotten 2 elderly residents to write checks. Logan handed over the footage. High-def, crystal-clear audio. Karen Cheryl clearly saying, "We'll fine you $1,000. While brandishing that badge like it meant something. The cop shook his head. They're done. By Monday morning, Cheryl and Denise were on the front page of the local paper. Fake HOA enforcers arrested in backyard scam. Ex-Marine catches it all on camera. They looked like raccoons caught in a dumpster fire. You could almost hear the community cheering. But that wasn't the end. Because the real HOA, the legitimate one from 3 blocks over, sent out a mass email disavowing any connection, warning residents not to open their doors to the Karen sisters, and encouraging anyone who'd been scammed to contact police. The community Facebook group exploded. Photos, stories, rage, and lawsuits. Turns out, Cheryl had been impersonating a public official for months. Denise? She had already been fined in another county for unauthorized inspections. People were furious. Me? I planted a new flower bed where Cheryl had stomped across my irises. And I added a sign to the gate. Private property. Trespassers will be recorded and shamed on YouTube. Because Yesway uploaded Logan's footage. The views? Over 1.2 million. Justice served with a twist of digital karma. By the end of that week, the Karen sisters were swimming in more trouble than they could handle. Denise tried to backpedal, claimed she was just helping her sister, and didn't know the badge was fake. But the footage said otherwise. Cheryl, ever the ringleader, lawyered up fast, but it was too late. 3 lawsuits hit them in 48 hours, and one of them was from a disabled veteran they tried to intimidate last spring. His daughter had receipts, literal receipts showing she paid a compliance fee in cash. Logan testified during the preliminary hearing. Calm, professional, straight facts, just like he'd been trained. The judge was not amused, especially when Logan handed over a USB drive containing additional footage from his drone, showing Cheryl and Denise peeking over fences and photographing private mailboxes. That drone? Yeah, it had night vision. Game over. The DA called it a pattern of organized harassment with fraudulent intent, and boom, formal charges were filed. Impersonation, trespassing, attempted fraud, the whole stack. I'll never forget Cheryl's face when she was escorted out of court, tight-lipped and pale, her once perfect hair clinging to her forehead like soggy spaghetti. No clipboard, no fake badge, just the cold click of cuffs and a hallway full of phones recording her humiliation. Neighbors dropped by with cookies and high-fives. One even brought champagne. We laughed, we vented, we shared our stories. The Karen sisters had made everyone feel small, powerless, but not anymore. Logan turned to me that night and said, "You know what they hate most? Being seen for what they really are." He was right. The best part? After the story went viral, people from across the country started reaching out. Retired cops, veterans, even lawyers offering advice and support. Turns out, fake HOA scammers were more common than I ever imagined. But this time, the community didn't stay quiet. This time, we fought back. And the fallout? Oh, it keeps coming. Cheryl and Denise are still tied up in court proceedings, and at least one class action lawsuit is moving forward. Their names are now permanently tied to the phrase HOA scam, and their mugshots? All over the internet. Justice didn't just knock, kicked the damn door in. So next time someone waves a badge in your face without credentials, ask questions, call for backup, and maybe, just maybe, make sure your Marine son's already recording. Want to see the full video that sparked the lawsuits? Subscribe to our YouTube channel and watch justice unfold in real time. They called the cops on me over a jet ski.
Yeah, a jet ski.
Not a weapon, not a stolen car. A bright yellow Sea-Doo that's been in my family since 2009. And the kicker? They had no idea that one tiny line on an old land deed would send those officers walking right back to their patrol cars without saying another word. Let me back up a sec. It was a Saturday morning, hot enough to fry an egg on my driveway, and I just rolled my jet ski out of the garage for a long overdue cleanup. Speakers were playing some good old-fashioned Lynyrd Skynyrd. My dog Cooper was chasing his own tail, and life at that moment felt perfect. Until I heard it. That slow, deliberate shuffle of flip-flops on pavement, followed by the unmistakable ahem of someone who wanted to ruin my day. "Is that yours?" the voice asked, thin and sharp like a paper cut. I turned to see Hoakaren Rothman, self-proclaimed queen of Willow Pine's HOA sun visor, clipboard, lips pursed so tight it looked like she hadn't smiled since 1983. "Yes, ma'am, it is," I said, trying to be polite. "This is a residential area," she snapped, motioning toward my driveway like she'd caught me running an illegal casino on it. "Watercraft are not permitted on visible display per Article 7, Section 14 of the HOA Covenants." Now, I knew what she was referring to, but here's the thing, me house? It's not actually part of the HOA, never was. It was built 3 years before the neighborhood got incorporated under Karen's little empire. And yeah, I've read that land deed line at least 100 times right under Parcel 17. It says, Excluded from Willow Pine's covenant restrictions per boundary line established 1998. So I smiled and said, "Actually, I think there's been a little mix-up," but she cut me off with that clipboard, literally raised it like a sword and declared, "I'm filing a formal violation. Expect a fine in the mail." I let out a soft chuckle. "You can't fine me." Her eyes narrowed. "Excuse me?" I walked into my garage and came back holding a laminated copy of the deed. Yes, laminated, because I've been through this dance before with Karen's minions. I pointed to the exclusion clause. Karen stared at it like I just handed her a Sudoku puzzle written in Latin. She didn't say another word, just spun on her heel and stormed off down the sidewalk. I figured that was the end of it. Oh, I was wrong. 3 hours later, 2 sheriff's deputies rolled up. Lights on, sirens mercifully off. Karen was waiting for them at the end of her driveway, arms crossed like she was posing for her own episode of Law and Order, Neighborhood Division. I watched from my porch, sipping iced tea like I was at a front row seat to my own drama series. "Sir," one of the deputies called out, "we received a complaint regarding an unauthorized vehicle obstructing neighborhood standards. Can we speak with you?" "Absolutely," I said, walking down with the same laminated deed in hand. I gave them the rundown, how my house was built before the HOA, how I'm not subject to their bylaws, and how Karen's complaint had no legal ground. Deputy 2 took the deed, read it, turned to Deputy 1 and said, "He's right. This property's outside the covenant zone. He's not under HOA jurisdiction." Karen heard that loud and clear from her front yard, and man, you should have seen her face. She looked like someone had unplugged her life support. Eyes wide, mouth twitching, one hand gripping that clipboard like it was the last piece of her crumbling kingdom. And then get this, she actually yelled, "But it's unsightly. It's an eyesore. The children can see it." Deputy 1 gave her a look I'll never forget. "Ma'am, that's not a criminal matter. We're not here to enforce personal taste." Now that line deserves to be embroidered on a pillow. Karen tried to argue, tried to throw a fit right there on the lawn, but the officers walked back to their cruiser, muttering something about wasting department resources. I stood there in the sun, hand on my jet ski, grinning like a man who just won a game he didn't even know he was playing. But you want to know the best part? That night, I lit up the driveway with LED string lights, red, white, and blue, draped an American flag over the garage, and parked the jet ski right in the center like it was the 4th of July in Daytona Beach. Karen hasn't said a word since. Makes you wonder how many people get bullied into silence by fake rules and louder voices? Well, not this guy. Not on my land. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of hammering. Not construction work. Not a neighbor doing some casual weekend repairs. No, this was the erratic, furious kind of hammering that said someone was having a mental breakdown and trying to build their way through it. I walked out in my robe, coffee in hand, and sure enough Karen was out front, pounding a Community Standards Matter sign into her yard, like she was summoning HOA demons from the underworld. She saw me watching and shouted across the street, "Some of us still care about appearances." I raised my mug and gave her a 2-finger salute. Cheers to that. Honestly, I thought we were done. I thought the cops showing up, reading the deed, and walking off would have sent the message loud and clear. But you know people like Karen, they don't stop when they're wrong. They double down. By Tuesday, she'd rallied 3 other neighbors to write a petition demanding the removal of unauthorized marine equipment. They slipped it under my door like it was a ransom note.
No signatures.
No official letterhead. Just bold Times New Roman and a whole lot of misplaced rage. I laughed so hard I choked on my sandwich. But you know what really got me? That night, I heard something by the lake. A weird, scraping noise. I grabbed my flashlight and walked down the path that runs behind our row of homes, and there, half buried in the cattails, was a pile of lawn furniture. My lawn furniture. The set that had been on my back patio earlier that day. It didn't take a genius to connect the dots. Karen had decided that if she couldn't control my front yard, she'd mess with my back. So I did what any sane man with a jet ski and a flair for petty revenge would do. I spent all Wednesday afternoon creating what I now lovingly refer to as Jet Ski Island. Built a floating dock extension out of old pallets, mounted solar-powered spotlights to it, and parked the Sea-Doo right in the center like it was the crown jewel of the lake. Hell, I even added a little speaker that loops Ride of the Valkyries at low volume during sunrise. Legal? Yep.
HOA
100%. Petty? Absolutely. And when Karen saw it the next morning, I swear I heard her scream through the double-pane windows. I thought that'd be the end of her crusade. But oh no, Karen had one more wild card to play. The next week, I got a letter in the mail. Not from the HOA, but from the city planning office. Apparently, someone had filed a zoning violation complaint, accusing me of constructing an unauthorized floating structure with potential environmental impact. Now that made my jaw tighten. I made an appointment, drove down to the office with my paperwork in hand, and sat through the longest, most ridiculous meeting of my life. Turns out, Karen had filed the complaint under her maiden name and claimed to be part of a fictitious lakefront preservation society. I showed the clerk my land deed again, including the parcel boundary, lake usage rights, and the attached letter from the previous owner affirming my floating dock was within zoning compliance from 2007. The clerk actually laughed and said, "She's tried this before. You're good." On my way out, I noticed a man in the lobby, waiting for his own appointment. He gave me a curious look. "You the jet ski guy?" he asked. I nodded warily. He chuckled. "She tried to get me fined last year for painting my shed too bright. Claimed it gave her migraines." Sounds about right. "Next time she comes at you with legal threats, let me know," he said. "I'm your neighbor, and an attorney." Boom. That was the twist. The cavalry I didn't know I needed. He handed me his card and said, "She's all bark and fake bylaws. You ever want to take this to the real courts, I'm in." I walked out of that building 10 feet taller. And when I got home, I fired up the Sea-Doo just loud enough to let Karen know the jet ski wasn't going anywhere. Sometimes it only takes one land deed line to bring the whole HOA house of cards tumbling down. But if you've got a neighbor like Karen, you might need to bring the whole dock, spotlight, and Wagner playlist too. Ever had to fight back with paperwork and pettiness? Hit like, leave a comment, and definitely subscribe because next week, I'm installing a laser light show on Jet Ski Island. Let's see what that clause says. The first time I saw them lurking near my fence, I had a bad feeling. But when the Karen sisters actually jumped into my backyard that night, I swear my heart stopped, then roared like thunder. Did they not see the massive red signs that screamed, FBI K-9 training zone NO trespassing? Or maybe they thought those warnings were just some cute garden decoration. Oh, they were about to find out the hard way. It was close to midnight, the air sticky with the kind of summer heat that makes every creak and rustle sound louder. I had just sat down with a cold beer, hoping for a moment of peace, when I heard that sharp metallic clank me fence gate rattling. At first, I thought it was a raccoon, but then I heard whispers. 2 voices, female, shrill with that nasal arrogance I recognized from the neighborhood's most infamous duo. The Karen sisters, Denise and Linda. These 2 had been a nightmare since they moved in 6 months ago. HOA meetings? They turned every single one into a courtroom drama. Garbage bins? They once called the city because mine were too close to the curb. And now they were in my backyard at night? Oh no, no, no. I slid open my back door quietly, and there they were, 2 figures in pastel pajamas, standing under the floodlight I'd installed for the K-9 training. Their mouths hung open as they looked around, like they had just discovered some forbidden paradise. "I told you he's hiding something back here," one of them hissed. "What normal guy has this much security lighting? He's probably running something illegal." Illegal? Me? I almost laughed out loud. I'm a retired federal K-9 trainer. This yard is my pride and my sanctuary. Every inch is designed for working dogs' obstacle courses, chew toys, and warning signs that even a half-awake toddler could understand. And the dogs? Oh, my boys were inside, but they were trained to respond to my cue. I put my hand on the sliding glass door handle and exhaled. "You picked the wrong night, ladies." I opened the door and let out a sharp whistle. The sound cut through the still air, and within 2 seconds, the ground trembled. My two German shepherds, Max and Bravo, stormed out like living shadows, teeth glinting under the floodlight. The sisters froze. I swear Linda let out a squeak that sounded like a deflating balloon. What the hell? Denise shrieked, her voice breaking. Call them off. Call them off. Her hands flailed like she was swatting invisible flies. Call them off. I stepped onto the patio, my voice low and deliberate. You broke into my yard. Do you even know where you are? Their blank stares told me everything. This is federal property when my dogs are in training. You see that sign? I pointed to the giant metal warning plate on the fence. Denise glanced at it and scoffed. We thought that was fake. Nobody just has FBI dogs. Oh, the audacity. My blood boiled, but at the same time, I felt this wave of disbelief wash over me. How do you even argue with logic that twisted? I whistled again, and Max bark eat a deep, rolling sound that made Linda jump back so hard she tripped over the grass. She landed flat on her back with a thud that even the night crickets went quiet for. Ugh, my back, she howled. Denise turned to me with fire in her eyes. If your dogs touch us, we'll sue you. Sue me? I laughed loud, sharp, the kind that slices through nonsense. You sue me, I'll send this entire security cam footage to the FBI. Do you know what trespassing on a federal K-9 training zone means? Oh, I can promise you, you'll wish you never even owned a fence-jumping pair of sneakers. For a second, they went pale. Maybe it was the mention of the FBI. Maybe it was Max circling like a lion who'd just been handed two clueless zebras. I stepped closer, my boots crunching on the gravel. So, I said, voice calm but edged like a blade. Do you want to explain why you're in my yard at midnight? Denise crossed her arms, trying to fake courage. We thought you were building something illegal. People have been talking. You're always out here with those big dogs. Weird equipment, we thought. I don't know, you were hiding weapons or something. She actually said this with a straight face. My jaw clenched. You broke into my yard because you thought I was a criminal? That's rich. You know what's criminal? Trespassing. You're lucky I didn't call them off the leash. There was a moment of silence, tense, heavy until Linda started whining. Denise, let's just go. I think I twisted my ankle. She was limping toward the fence when I stopped her with a single word. Wait. They both froze again. I grabbed my phone from my pocket, the little red record button glowing. Smile. You're on camera. I've got everything, your faces, your voices, your stupidity all captured. The Karen sisters' faces twisted with outrage. You can't record us. Denise barked. Oh, the irony. I tilted my phone just enough so the screen caught the yard light glare. Honey, you're on my property. I can record you, handcuff you, or call the sheriff right now. You want me to do that? Denise's bravado cracked like thin ice. No, but you can't just shut it. I snapped, my patience wearing thin. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to climb back over that fence, and you're going to pray I don't forward this footage to my old colleagues. Because if I do, you'll be explaining this little midnight stunt to a federal judge. Linda was practically dragging her sister by the elbow now. They scrambled over the fence like a pair of angry raccoons, muttering curses under their breath. I didn't care. I stood there, Max and Bravo at my side, feeling that slow burn of adrenaline fade. I knew this wasn't over. Oh no, Karen sisters like them don't just slink away and stay quiet. I could already imagine them concocting some wild story about dangerous dogs or illegal operations to the HOA. And sure enough, the very next morning, I heard it. A sharp knock on my front door. I opened it to find the HOA president, looking pale and nervous, holding a clipboard like it might shield him from the storm brewing in his eyes. Mr. Tanner, we've received complaints that your, dogs were threatening neighbors last night? I blinked. You mean the neighbors who broke into my yard at midnight? The HOA president hesitated, glancing at his notes. Well, they said they were concerned about some, unusual activities here. My laughter cut him off mid-sentence. I walked back inside, grabbed my tablet, and pulled up the security footage. The video showed everything: Karen's sisters jumping the fence, screaming when the dogs barked, and trying to threaten me with lawsuits. I hit play, folded my arms, and watched the president's face go from confused to horrified. He let out a low whistle. Oh wow. That's not good for them. I leaned in, my voice a mix of exhaustion and fire. Not good? Is criminal trespassing. Do you want to know what the FBI thinks about people harassing a retired federal trainer on federal property? He shook his head quickly. Nope. I don't need to know. This is enough. We'll handle it. But the Karen sisters weren't done. That afternoon, I caught Denise standing on the sidewalk with her phone out, pointing at my yard like she was filming some kind of crime documentary. Linda stood beside her, hobbling with that fake limp, shouting something about dangerous animals. My patience snapped like a dry twig. I marched out, Max and Bravo trailing behind me, their ears pricked, eyes bright. Hey! I shouted across the lawn. If you think filming me is going to scare me, you're wrong. Want to see what real evidence looks like? Their faces paled when I held up my phone, the same video queued up, ready to go viral. Imagine this on social media, I said with a grin. 2 Karen sisters trespassing at midnight on federal training grounds. Think people will side with you or laugh you off the internet? The silence on their end was golden. By evening, my phone buzzed with a text from a buddy who still worked with the bureau. Saw the footage you sent, he wrote. If they keep harassing you, we can pull them in for questioning. That text was like music to my ears. The next day came like a storm waiting to break. I was sipping coffee on my porch when a black SUV rolled up, quiet but unmistakable. 2 agents stepped out wearing the kind of dark suits that make people sit up straight. Mr. Tanner? One of them said with a nod. We're here regarding the incident you reported. I didn't even need to speak, just showed them the footage again. The agents exchanged looks, their expressions a mix of disbelief and annoyance. These 2 women really climbed your fence? One asked. At midnight, I confirmed, and then tried to claim my dogs attacked them. Do you know they're already threatening a lawsuit? One of the agents chuckled. If anyone's filing a lawsuit, it should be you. What they did is trespassing on federal training grounds. We can scare them straight. And oh, did they. By lunchtime, I saw the Karen sisters' faces through my window mouths open. Eyes wide as the agents knocked on their door. Their pastel robes looked far less powerful when they were being read a list of legal consequences. Denise tried to argue, of course. I could hear her shrieking from my porch. This is harassment. I was just checking for illegal activity. The agent's voice was calm but cutting. Ma'am, the only illegal activity here is yours. You're lucky no K9 made contact with you, or you'd be facing far worse charges. Linda started crying, something about her ankle, but nobody cared. Their bravado melted faster than ice on a July sidewalk. That evening, the HOA president called me again, this time sounding almost apologetic. We've, decided to officially warn Denise and Linda. Honestly, if they keep this up, we might push for legal action ourselves. Your video made the rounds with the board. It's wow. I just smiled. Good. Because if they try another stunt, I'll make sure the lawsuit they're so eager about hits them like a freight train. The following week, the Karen sisters were nowhere to be seen. Not at the HOA meetings. Not on the sidewalk. Their house lights stayed off after dusk, like they were hiding from their own humiliation. I almost felt sorry for them almost. But when you mess with trained K9 units, federal property, and a guy who spent 20 years dealing with high-pressure situations, you don't just walk away with a victory. You walk away with a permanent lesson carved into your ego. Every so often, I'd catch Max and Bravo sitting by the fence, ears perked, waiting for any sign of trouble. I'd pat their heads and whisper, "No one's dumb enough to jump this fence again." And I knew deep down that the sisters had learned the meaning of karma. The video? Oh, it's ready. If they ever come back, I'll release it, tag the FBI, and let the internet decide their fate. So, what do you think? Do the Karen sisters deserve a lawsuit? Or should I let them stew in silence? Hit that subscribe button on my YouTube channel for more insane stories just like this one.